It was 2:30 at night in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, in Captain Ibrahim Traoré's private bedroom. The sound of a phone ringing on the encrypted security line broke the silence. The screen displayed undefined call. But this was not an ordinary. Wrong number? On the other end of the line was an offer that could change the world and a critical decision that had to be made within just 6 hours. The mysterious scholar who gave his name as Dr. Michael Harrison was proposing a $5 billion deal. But what was demanded in return for this money could change Burkina Faso's future forever. The negotiation that would unfold over the next 2 hours and 18 minutes would include decisions that could affect the fate not just of one country, but of all of Africa. When Traoré answered the phone, he was met with a professional but urgent voice. "Captain Traoré, I have a very important proposal for you. This conversation is of critical importance, and time is limited," said Dr. Harrison. The tone in his voice carried both respect and determination to the question, "Who are you, and how did you call me on this line?" Harrison's answer was prepared. "I am calling from the International Strategic Advisory Group. We need to have an urgent conversation about Burkina Faso's mineral resources." This phone call was not coincidental. Harrison and the group he represented had detailed knowledge about the massive gold and cobalt reserves recently discovered in Burkina Faso. The country's geological surveys had revealed much greater mineral wealth than previously thought. The value of these reserves had the potential to transform Burkina Faso from a regional power to a global player. However, extracting and marketing these reserves required technical expertise, large investments, and international networks. "I am listening to your proposal," said Traoré, sitting up on the edge of his bed. According to security protocols, he needed to record such conversations. Harrison seemed to have anticipated this situation. "This conversation must remain strictly between you and me. Captain, what I'm about to say is very sensitive." Traoré's experience had taught him how to handle such situations. "Then first clearly state who you are and which organization you represent." Harrison's explanation was detailed, but also mysterious. The International Strategic Advisory Group is a private organization operating worldwide. Our clients include large multinational corporations, investment funds, and strategic planning institutions. We develop long-term partnership agreements with countries that have valuable resources. This explanation seemed professional despite the ambiguities. "What do you want from Burkina Faso?" was the question that formed the critical point of the conversation. Harrison's answer revealed the big picture. "We are prepared to pay you $5 billion. In return, we want you to share 70% of the gold and cobalt mining rights in your country with our group for 30 years. This figure was 3 times Burkina Faso's annual budget. Such money would be enough to fundamentally transform the country's infrastructure. However, Traoré's initial reaction was cautious. $5 billion is a large sum, but 70% mining rights is also a very big concession. I need to understand how much we would benefit from this agreement." Harrison seemed to expect this question. "Of course, we can discuss the details. However, this offer is only valid for 6 hours. If you don't make your decision by 8:30 this morning, this opportunity will be lost." It's time. Pressure made Traoré suspicious. Why such haste? Why weren't normal diplomatic channels being used? Why at midnight? These questions were important for understanding Harrison's true intentions. "Dr. Harrison, why are you only giving 6 hours for such a large agreement?" "This is a serious decision, and I need to consult with my advisors." Harrison's answer reflected the complexity of international politics. "Captain Traoré, international mineral markets change very rapidly. Tomorrow morning, rival groups might also contact you. We're offering you advantageous terms because we want a strategic partnership, but this window of opportunity is very short." This explanation seemed logical, but Traoré's experience told him that hasty decisions were generally harmful. The first 30 minutes of the negotiation focused on understanding the details of the offer. Harrison explained how the $5 billion would be paid. $2 billion in the first year, $2 billion in the second year, $1 billion in the third year. As payment guarantee, we will open an escrow account in Swiss banks. This payment plan would significantly improve Burkina Faso's cash flow. However, Traoré was concerned about what was being demanded in return for the money. 70% mining rights is too much. This restricts our country's sovereignty. Could you suggest an alternative ratio? Harrison's answer was clear. This ratio is fair, considering the investment risks. Our group will meet all the technological and logistical needs of mining. You would only participate as a resource provider. This statement bothered Traoré. The phrase "only a resource provider" meant that Burkina Faso would remain at the lowest level of the value chain. Dr. Harrison, our goal is not just to sell raw materials. We want to create added value, increase local employment, and ensure technology transfer. This approach reflected Traoré's stance against Africa's exploitation. Harrison seemed to expect this objection. Of course, local development is important. Our plan includes employment for 10,000 people, working with local subcontractors and training Burkinabe engineers. But the technical side of mining is our area of expertise. This explanation showed the social dimension of the agreement, but still limited Burkina Faso's technological independence. The second half hour of the conversation moved into the negotiation. Phase Traoré presented a counteroffer. $5 billion is acceptable, but we want a 50/50 partnership in mining rights. Also, 80% of the workforce used in mining must be local. Harrison objected to this proposal. Captain, 50/50 partnership increases the risk too much. Our investment, our technology, our marketing network, 60/40 is the maximum ratio we can offer. This negotiation was not just about numbers. It involved issues about Burkina Faso's future position, Africa's role in the global economy, and how resource wealth should be evaluated. Traoré knew from experience that such agreements generally harmed developing countries. Dr. Harrison, I can accept the 60/40 ratio, but I have a condition. The ratios must change to 50/50 after 10 years. Harrison took a brief break to evaluate this proposal. Captain, I need to discuss this matter with my partners. Could you give me 10 minutes? This prey created an opportunity for Traoré to analyze the situation. Did they really need $5 billion? Would this agreement be beneficial in the long term? Could Burkina Faso preserve its independence? Harrison returned after 10 minutes. I spoke with my partners. We can agree on a 55/45 ratio and transition to 50/50 after 15 years, but this is our final offer. This offer was fairer than the initial situation, but still didn't satisfy Traoré. What guarantee do you give regarding technology transfer? Technology transfer was critical for African countries. Harrison's answer was detailed. Within 5 years, we will provide complete mining training to Burkinabe engineers. In 10 years, we will develop local operational capacity. In 15 years, we will enable you to operate completely independently. This timeline seemed acceptable, but Traoré wanted guarantees. How will you guarantee these promises? Tested the reliability of the agreement. Harrison, we will use the international arbitration system. External auditing and performance evaluation will be conducted every 5 years. If targets are not met, we will pay penalties. This mechanism ensured the agreement's auditability. The second hour of negotiation focused on environmental and social issues. Traoré, how will you minimize the environmental impacts of mining activities? Harrison, we will use the latest environmental technologies, soil rehabilitation, water treatment, air quality control. We will comply with all international standards. These commitments were important because the environmental damage from mining could be permanent. Regarding social responsibility, Harrison said, "We will allocate 5% of the annual profits to social projects, schools, hospitals, roads. They will be directed to the needs of the local community. This percentage could provide a meaningful resource for social development." However, Traoré's biggest concern was the political dimension of the agreement. Will this agreement affect Burkina Faso's foreign policy independence? Harrison's answer was clear. In no way. Our group is purely commercial. We have no interest in political interference. But how reliable was this guarantee? The last 30 minutes of the conversation was the decision-making process. Harrison. Captain, our offer is on the table. $5,545 partnership, $5 billion payment, technology transfer, environmental protection. Do you accept these terms? Traoré added one more condition. The agreement must be transparent, must be explainable to the people of Burkina Faso. Harrison hesitated. On this matter, Captain, commercial details can remain confidential, but the general framework can be disclosed. This answer didn't satisfy Traoré. Was a fundamental principle of democratic governance. Dr. Harrison, we cannot make any agreement that we would hide from our people at this point. Harrison's tone changed. Captain Traoré, this offer is very valuable. If you miss it, such an opportunity may not come again. This pressure increased Traoré's suspicions. Why were they so insistent? Were there other calculations behind it? Traoré realized it was time to make his final decision. After 2 hours of negotiation, he had clarified his thoughts. Dr. Harrison, your offer is economically attractive, but I have some concerns. I cannot make such a big decision alone. I need to discuss it with my cabinet and parliament. Harrison's reaction was harsh. Captain, there is a time limit. You must decide by 8:30 this morning. If you miss this opportunity, other groups may step in. Traoré didn't take this threat seriously. Dr. Harrison, Burkina is not for sale. We don't make our decisions hastily. This statement became the turning point of the conversation. Harrison's voice changed. Captain, this attitude of yours could cost you and your country dearly. International markets are impatient. Traoré noticed this veiled threat. Dr. Harrison, these words sound like an open threat. Are there other intentions behind this agreement proposal? Harrison backtracked. No, I'm just explaining market realities. But of course, we respect your decision. But it was too late. Traoré had understood the true intentions of this organization. Dr. Harrison, I'm informing you that we reject your proposal. We will evaluate Burkina Faso's resources in a way that fully protects the interests of our people. This agreement is unacceptable due to its terms. Traoré's voice was determined. Harrison's last sentence was meaningful. Captain Traoré, have you thought about the consequences of this decision? $5 billion is not easy money to find. Traoré's answer was clear. Dr. Harrison, money is important, but sovereignty is more important. Good night. After hanging up the phone, Traoré analyzed the situation. Who was this organization? Why were they in such a hurry? What forces were behind them? The next morning, he initiated a comprehensive investigation with his security team. The first findings of the investigations were striking. There was no officially registered company called International Strategic Advisory Group. No registered person named Dr. Michael Harrison could be found either. This was a professional fraud operation. Deeper investigations revealed that large multinational corporations were behind this phone call. These companies wanted to cheaply lock up Burkina Faso's mineral reserves. The midnight urgency was to bypass democratic processes. Traoré shared this experience with the public. At midnight, they tried to deceive us. They offered $5 billion, but in return, They wanted our country's future. We will not fall into such traps. This statement resonated greatly. International media followed this incident with great interest. News with headlines like "African Leader Exposes," "Midnight Conspiracy" were published. Other African country leaders also shared their similar experiences. This incident created awareness about midnight agreements in Africa. Many countries took measures. Against urgent agreement proposals, new protocols were developed to protect democratic processes. Traoré's determined stance was greatly appreciated in Africa. His opposition to the "give money, take sovereignty" approach inspired other leaders. 6. Months later, Burkina Faso made new mining agreements on its own terms. In these agreements, 70% of rights remained in the country. Technology transfer was guaranteed, and environmental protection was ensured. A year later, a comprehensive report was published about what happened that night. According to the report, similar midnight offers had been made to 12 African countries. Only Traoré had refused. This incident became a turning point in Africa's struggle to protect its resources. The midnight refusal became a symbol of courage in Africa. 2 years later, the companies behind the fake organization were exposed. 3 major Europe-based companies had their resource acquisition departments shut down. They received heavy penalties for disruptive activities. When Traoré recounted this experience, he said, "That night, we lost $5 billion, but we preserved our sovereignty. This was the right decision." These words summarized Africa's new approach. Today, the Traoré refusal is featured in international diplomacy literature. It is an example of how developing countries should resist urgent agreement pressures. The behind-the-scenes story of this incident was also noteworthy. After the phone conversation, Traoré urgently convened his security team. "Investigate this organization, who they are, where they call from, what their real purposes are. I want to know everything," he instructed. This investigation enabled Africa to discover new players in resource wars. When technical teams analyzed the phone line, they encountered surprising findings. The call had been routed through 7 different countries to reach Burkina Faso. This was a technique used in professional intelligence operations. This way, the caller's real location was hidden. Language analysis of Dr. Michael Harrison's speech also yielded interesting results. His speaking style was a mixture of American English and British English. This also gave clues about his real identity. He was probably someone who had worked in multinational companies and interacted with different cultures. Some technical terms Harrison used during the conversation showed that he had worked in the mining sector for many years. Phrases like geological reserve analysis, hydromological processes, flotation techniques were concepts that only sector experts knew. The most interesting finding was that Harrison had very detailed knowledge about Burkina Faso's recent geological discoveries. This information had not yet been disclosed to the public. This indicated there was an information leak. Who had leaked this information? Internal investigation revealed a shocking truth. An expert working in the Ministry of Mining had been copying confidential reports for the past 6 months. This person was in financial difficulty due to substance addiction and had been selling information for money. This discovery deeply affected Traoré. "We have traitors in our own house. If we cannot protect our information, we cannot protect our sovereignty either," he said at the cabinet meeting. After this incident, security procedures were reviewed in all critical institutions. Traoré's wife, Dr. Awa, when recounting that night, said after Ibrahim hung up the phone, "He thought for a long time. He told me this wasn't just a money offer. It wasn't just a test either. This was a test of our independence." Those words showed the personal meaning of the incident for Traoré. Internationally, this incident also affected other leaders in Africa. Ghana's president, Nana Akufo-Addo, stated, "Traoré's courage has been an example to all of us. We now approach urgent agreement proposals more carefully. Niger's leader at the time also revealed that he had experienced something similar. They had also called us at night offering uranium agreements. After hearing Traoré's story, we understood how right a decision we had made. He said academic circles also examined this incident with great interest. A case study titled Resource Curse and Resistance Strategies was prepared at Harvard Business School. A symposium on modern colonialism and Africa's response was organized. At Oxford, the most important lesson from this incident was the huge importance of information security. Traoré announced that major investments were being made in cybersecurity. Infrastructure saying technological sovereignty is as important as political sovereignty. In conclusion, that midnight phone call was not just an agreement proposal. It was a critical moment in Africa's struggle to determine its own destiny. Traoré's no was an indicator of the continent's new consciousness. Ultimately, with the decision he made that midnight, Traoré had refused not just $5 billion, but an investment in Africa's future. This decision became a symbol of the continent's will to stand on its own feet.